So, as you know, Harvard filed a lawsuit last month. Again, it's so hard to keep track of all these different federal things going on with Harvard, all these different investigations, lawsuits, freezing money. And Harvard amended its lawsuit. And right after they sued, within hours, the government slapped them with a freeze of $2.2 billion. And Harvard wrote a letter back on Monday, and immediately another $450 million were frozen. So what was amended was including other things such as these communications from the federal government, and they're trying to get money unfrozen so research could potentially continue.
Why is the administration seemingly targeting Harvard? Did Donald Trump not get into Harvard as a kid?
Well, Harvard, as you know, is the oldest and richest university in America.
Okay.
Harvard stands for wealth, power, and money and prestige. And if you can get concessions from Harvard, it speaks to what could come next. And Harvard has said they actually agree with some of the things that the Trump administration has proposed. They acknowledge there's anti-Semitism on campus. They acknowledge that it's a problem in classrooms when students do not feel comfortable speaking. They're sort of self-censoring themselves. And Harvard has acknowledged this. They just don't agree with the way that the Trump administration has gone about this.
And then in addition to that, then you have the GOP tax bill that comes out. What did it say about taxing universities' endowments that then obviously hurts Harvard as well?
So right now, after the 2017 tax bill, private colleges with $500,000 of endowment per student had a 1.4% tax on their net investment gains. Now they're creating a tiered system where the richest schools with $2 million or more of endowment per student pay 21%.
Wow.
Yes, and there's several other tiers, 1.25 million to almost 1.999 million per student would be at 14%, and then another tier would be at 7%, and then still 500 to 750 million would remain at the 1.4%. So in the story we have out today looks at Grinnell College in Iowa, a place most people have never heard of, but it's high on my radar screen because a certain guy out of Omaha helped them invest their money decades ago, Warren Buffett, and they have $2.7 billion. And when you look at their population of 1,700 students, they're in that zone, and they're going to pay a lot more.
Is the expectation that this legislation will actually go through? Does it have broad support? Do we know anything about the politics of it?
Well, support from Republicans, yes.
Okay.
It still could change. Last time in 2017, there was a carve out for Berea College, where in Kentucky, where Mitch McConnell helped make that happen, and it put it in the language it must be for schools with at least 500 students. Tuition paying, and Berea is like a work college, so they don't charge tuition. However, there is a idea that if you're 5,000 students or less, you should not pay the bigger tax. And we all know who's from Iowa, Chuck Grassley, and he's been in touch with Grinnell College. So it's all in flux, and I don't know that people want to penalize these small liberal arts colleges that have small numbers of students, but they are quite rich. And again, the price tag is $90,000. Maybe
tell me about it.
Maybe make that a little bit less, and you may find some friends in Congress.
So in terms of the ask for the Trump administration to Harvard, what's the ask? And then the Harvard University president, Alan Garber, as you mentioned earlier, they're not completely unaligned in some ways.
Well, there are changes that the administration would like to see, such as in hiring and admissions. And the Supreme Court decision in 2023 said you cannot use race to make admissions determinations. There's so many investigations going on. I think the administration wants certainly changes, and Harvard, they haven't been negotiating as far as we know. They want things, and they're willing to use the big hammer of the federal government that has billions of dollars.
on the other hand, we've seen even with some of these Mideast countries trying to find ways to appease the president, to appease the administration,
like Colombia,
and,
right?
Then kind of walks some of these things back. Harvard seems to be taking a pretty straight-on approach here.
Well, keep in mind that Colombia, which did, agree to some of the demands, is not as rich as Harvard by any means. Their endowment is $15 billion. Harvard is $53 billion. Now, with Harvard, the question is, do they want to bring their faculty and their community on board to say, we're not standing up? Yet, in the background, they have been enforcing more rules. They came out with an anti-Semitism report. We'll see. We'll see what happens. But it's a lot of money. And the federal government, has a lot of levers. And if you don't want to, listen to what the federal government is saying, don't take their money.